Yeah.
Okay, now we're better. Okay, everybody, I'd like you to meet Paul Hletko. Paul, are you there?
Hey, I'm here.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. There's Paul Barrent is right there, but we also got Paul Hletko. Paul Hletko is in his. Looks like you're in your basement. Am I correct?
You're correct. Got the home office, or the study, as I prefer to call it. My wife calls it the man cave.
The
I
man
prefer,
cave. Well, I know that you do a lot of these nowadays, right? Because you even have your own Zoom account and all that stuff.
yeah, I've done a few of them, if you will.
Very, very nice. Very, very nice. Well, I'm going to ask you the first question that I ask everybody else, which is, what are you drinking tonight and why?
So I'm drinking tonight. I have the Few Spirits American whiskey. Obviously, I have a choice of few products because I have a decent selection. But I knew Gil, you had it, so I grabbed that. So we would be having the same thing.
Okay, well, very good. Well, this is actually, I actually poured this. I opened this as a brand new bottle that I just got. And I have not actually tasted this yet. So I'm doing it right now. From what I understand, tell me if I'm correct, this is a blend of your bourbon and your rye, correct?
That is correct. There is a third whiskey in there as well, and it's the third whiskey that I think makes it really something special and different.
What is that third whiskey?
So the third whiskey is
Oh, nice.
it's technically and legally, according to TTB rules, a single malt. I would not label it a single malt because it's not 100% malted barley,
Hmm.
but under federal rules, it is. So it's not the one that you're looking at, Mr. Bloom. It's a different whiskey.
Got it. So this
That
is,
the
and
photo
this
of your shoulder
whiskey,
is 100% malt. The
and
blending stock in here is not.
got it. And from what I recall, this whiskey won an award. Was at the American Whiskey Awards last year? Is that correct?
Just won double gold best in class at San Francisco, as well as just won the World Whiskey Awards for Best American Blend.
Wow.
So we got a couple, we got a couple big things. We don't like the B word. It's certainly an accurate one, but so much of whiskey has been polluted by less scrupulous operators, releasing stuff that's blends that's complete and total shit.
Right.
This is not like that. These are three craft whiskeys, all high end. But we just really believe that the whiskey speaks for itself. It's different. It's not bourbon. It's not rye. It's not malt. It is something different that adds to a discussion of what whiskey can be. And when you look at the whiskey world that's kind of surrounding us right now, there are enough other fantastic quality American blends
Hmm.
that it's this pejorative term has to end. You look at the stuff that High West is doing, like with Campfire.
Hmm.
You can look at what Hodling just put out. That is a absolute killer whiskey.
What was
Uh,
that? What was the name of that one?
Hodling and Company. I can never remember the actual brand they put it out. It's the
Okay.
old Anchor.
Okay.
Everybody on the call may well know them better as Anchor, but they changed their name when the brewery sold. They changed their name.
Okay.
Um,
And where are they located?
San Francisco.
Okay. Interesting. Very good.
St. George has done some stuff that would probably qualify here. Michter's, of course,
Hmm.
obviously a very big name.
Something I've seen a lot lately is the four, they call them the four grain whiskeys.
Mhm.
There are quite a few of those out there. Now this wouldn't qualify because this is a three grain really, because this is primarily barley, corn, and rye, right?
Yeah. It was just I'm trying to do the reconstruction, but yeah, it would be a
Hmm.
3 grain whiskey. Obviously, different proportions in each of the constituent parts. Um, we've got a 4 grain whiskey that will probably get released next summer, maybe.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Um,
So will that be wheat? Will it be wheat then as the fourth grain?
yep, it's a cool whiskey, although it's a weird one because it really doesn't taste like Few. It tastes like Kentucky bourbon,
Oh,
um,
okay.
which is not a bad thing. It's just
Yeah.
it's very different than our house style. So we're trying to figure out what to do with that.
So when you say we, okay, I've met your team at Delilah's. Okay, you brought your team to Delilah's back in the fall. We were all drinking together.
Back
Good
in the good old
guys.
days,
What's that?
back in the good old days when you could be people and not be on fucking Zoom.
Exactly. Back in the good old days, I got to tell you, I think I'm going to really ugly cry when I can go back to Delilah's. you
Well,
know,
theoretically Friday.
you know, what's that?
I can't. Aren't they opening on Friday?
I'm not so sure if they are opening on Friday or not because from what I heard, and maybe this has changed recently, um, Mike was saying that if they have to enforce any type of distancing, that they wouldn't really be able to afford to open. So I'm not so sure. Have you heard something different recently?
Just the stuff that came out today with going to whatever the next phase is. Uh,
Yeah, I think that is only really good for places that are large enough that
okay.
can handle distancing. And his place, as you know, especially downstairs, I mean, there's almost no way to distance down there. So I don't know. I haven't heard anything. If anybody's heard anything, feel free to put that on the chat. And Eric, if you see it, let us know. But so back to your team. Okay, so when you say we, okay, the things that we are coming up with, all right. How do you guys collaboratively come up with, the mix that goes into this, the mix that goes into your 4 grain? What's the process? How does that work?
Yeah, I think it's always different based on various projects, and it's also a little bit fluid. It's like when we started a few years ago, we had I wouldn't call it a rule because it wasn't really a rule, but more of a practice that everybody in the company was effectively required to come up with 2 new whiskeys a year, and would make them.
Nice.
And the rule and we just had a threshold of we don't care if it's going to sell. Uh, we want it to be fun. So judge your experiments based on fun, not on commercial. And so that worked until we grew a little bit more. Now it's much more of a longer process
Okay.
where at this point we do have to consider, what do we think the commercial practicalities
Right.
are? Will we be able to sell enough to make it um, worth it? At this point, F.E.W is now the #1 selling craft rye in the U.S., the #2 selling craft bourbon in the U.S. For people that make
Wow.
their own.
Congratulations.
Oh, well,
That's wonderful.
that's sales. That's not art. Um,
Well, it still has to be good, though.
it is good. This is how I feed my kids, so I am all in favor of that. But we do try to make sure that we really keep on with that focus of what do we want to do? What do we think is going to be fun? What are we going to get behind?
hmm
And so it's collaborative, it's iterative. Somebody will come up with an idea, and then we stress test that idea.
Right. So when you're hiring these people, so when you went through the hiring process, were you looking for both a combination of technical skill with distilling combined with creativity, or were you focusing more on, when you're getting started, you want to make sure you know how to actually make good whiskey, to get that, you need somebody who can do that. How do you build that team?
Actually, the reverse is how we actually do it. Previous alcohol experience is actually a detriment rather than a pro. Um, I don't want people that have alcohol experience. I want people that are creative. Um, so it's we take a different approach. If
So
you
how
work in
did you
a
come up
distillery,
with?
I don't want you if you worked in a different distillery.
Right,
But if you're a ballet dancer, now I get excited.
right.
Are you a painter? Are you a photographer? Are you, uh, what creative act do you do? Are you a musician? Like I'm a musician. I can't
Okay,
paint. I can't dance. I play guitar.
nice.
Um,
So
to
who
me,
came up with
it's
this?
all the same. It's all art.
Who came up with the cold cut?
So the cold cut was actually that was me.
Okay.
Um, the implementation and the overall product ends up being very much iterative and collaboration. The base concept for that was mine. Um,
Let me just tell
but it doesn't
everybody for
matter.
a second what this is, because this is coffee and bourbon, right?
Yeah. So the cold cut is our cold brew coffee. Sorry, is our bourbon whiskey.
hmm
Comes out of the barrel at about 125. Um, and obviously, usually when you cut it down to proof, you usually add water. For the cold cut, we add cold brew coffee instead of water.
Got it.
Um,
Well, I got to tell you
That
something.
was,
It's the only flavored whiskey that I've actually purchased for myself, and I love it. Matter of fact, I was having it last week on the rocks on a hot day in the afternoon on my patio. It was just a wonderful, mid to late afternoon drink. Very very enjoyable. I'd rather be having it at the side of the pool, but we can't do that this summer.
not yet.
But not yet. Hopefully that'll be happening, but
Have you seen
not yet.
that? Have you seen Swimply yet?
No, what's that?
Airbnb for private pools. You can go rent a private pool for 3-4 hours. Um, it's absolutely genius because I mean,
That
let's
is
say
genius.
none of us probably have our own pool, but we all want to go to a pool. All the public pools are closed, but for $150, you can go rent a pool for 4 or 5 hours.
Oh my
Bring
God,
your
that's
friends and go hang
genius.
out. It's fucking genius.
Oh my God. And this is all over the country now, or is this
Yeah.
just a few?
There's one over here in Skevinston that I've got my eyes on, but there's an awesome one over in northern Indiana. I don't know if anybody lives kind of out that way. But it can hold like 15 people. It's got a tiki bar pool. It just looks like an absolute joy to hang out at. So
Oh my God,
if you haven't seen it, I'm obsessed.
that sounds like it. That sounds like genius. My God. But also, from what I remember, this cold cut, it also won an award as well, correct?
Yeah, that just won best flavored whiskey in the world from World Whiskey Awards.
Nice.
So again,
Eric, do you have that picture that I sent you?
yeah, we don't really chase we don't chase awards, but they are
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. Eric, can you post that picture of Paul at the award show? Yeah, that's it. Because I think that I sent you that picture there. Let's see.
Oh, I was wearing my awesome jacket.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted people to see that jacket. Eric, do you have
Love
it?
that jacket.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now.
Okay. I got to tell you, because everybody, you got to see this thing. No, not that one. Not that one. That will be there. There we go. Everybody, take a look at that jacket. When I saw that on Facebook, Paul, I thought, you know what? I have got to share that today. Can you please tell me about that jacket?
I love that jacket. A company called Freeborn, and it's I don't really wear jackets. I only wore that because I think it's just such a badass jacket. Like I haven't worn a suit since '90. No, that's not true. I wore a suit to my father-in-law's funeral, and I wore a suit in '97 or '98. But that's how much I love that jacket.
Where'd you get so that jacket you've had for how long?
This one I've only had for 6 months.
So you bought it for did you buy it for the award show?
No, I bought it because it's badass. They also have another one that I'm obsessed with. I would buy it, but I can't figure out which color I want. They have velvet smoking jackets that
Nice.
I'm absolutely obsessed with, like a red velvet diamond cut smoking jacket.
Well, I would tell you to buy them both. Buy 2 colors.
Yeah, but I don't wear enough smoking jackets.
That's too bad. That's a shame. Actually, Eric, can you do me a favor? Can you post the other picture? I want everybody to see this for a second. So there is a bottle of your bourbon. You might recall that last fall when I was in Israel, I went to a very famous, it's called the Whiskey Bar and Museum. It's in Tel Aviv. And it's a world famous place. It's got an incredible selection. And I was just walking around the place, and all of a sudden I see on the shelf there a bottle of F.E.W. in the in a section there with a whole bunch of other American things, and I posted that on Facebook. And it's amazing because like immediately caught the eye. One of the reasons though it caught my eye is because of the shape of your bottles. Okay, you talk a little bit about the shape and how that came about, because to be honest, since there were thousands of bottles on the shelf there, if I hadn't immediately seen this distinctive shape, it might not have registered with me.
Well, I mean, everything about the package is considered and is important. So on that one, like for the glass itself, there's several factors that really controlled. One, at the time it was a stock bottle, which meant that I could afford to buy it.
Okay.
So I'm not like a lot of people. I don't have any money, so we had to, really scrimp and sit. To really scrimp, which meant that we couldn't get custom glass. So we had to have a stock bottle.
Mm-hmm.
That said, I wanted it to be a very expensive stock bottle so that nobody else would be stupid enough to use it.
Okay.
So I found what is effectively the most expensive stock bottle on the planet.
Well, it's
The
heavy.
bottle
I
you're
mean,
holding is now custom glass because
yeah. Well, it's heavy and it's thick.
very
It's
thick.
got
It
really
weighs
some
a
weight
lot.
to it.
It feels good. When you pick it up at the shelf, if you walk down the store shelves, I have to do two things to get you to buy it. One, I got to get you to stop and look at it,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of where the label design and kind of the glass and all that kind of comes in. Two, I got to get you to pick it up, because if you don't pick it up, you're not going to get it to the cash register. So when you pick it up, it's got to feel good. It's got to feel like it's a $50 bottle of whiskey, because if you pick it up and it's made out of plastic or it's flimsy or it's chintzy, all of a sudden it doesn't feel like a $50 bottle.
Right. Yeah, it's like a pen, like a nice heavy pen.
Right.
If it doesn't have the right feel to it, you're just not going to want to buy it.
Yeah, it needs to look good. It needs to feel good. And it also has to be able to continue to tell the brand story of being classic without pandering or trying to pretend it's something that it's not. We wanted something that was going to look classic without pretending that it's, again, we don't want to pretend it's something it's not.
Right.
It's, we are what we are.
Right.
So that makes sense. And if you look at like the label itself has a appearance of bicycle playing cards.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. For people who haven't seen it, here it is.
So the bicycle playing cards made their debut at the 1893 World's Fair, which is where all of our iconography and all the labels come from. So all of those few brand ties back into the 1893 World's Fair. That's why all our whiskeys are 93 proof.
Oh, nice.
Says Chicago without saying Chicago.
Right.
But the bottle itself also looks a little bit like a deck of playing cards as well, just like the label. And like I noted, when I started Few, I didn't have a whole lot of money. I still don't, but I had less then.
Yeah, but you have whiskey.
But now I got whiskey. But I can figure out when I have 3 cards that are the same, or if I have 5 cards that are sequential, or 5 cards that have the same suit. And I've got friends that don't do that math as well as I do. So that financed a lot of the beginning of Few.
Oh, very nice, very nice. Actually, a friend of mine in the office. I worked at Morgan Stanley, and a friend of mine's a semi-pro poker player, and he got in the business a few years after I did, and he didn't have that big of a business when the financial crash happened in 2008, 2009, and he actually was able to survive and stay afloat because of his poker winnings.
Nice.
He was just, he needed, he would go to Indiana every weekend, and he would try to come home every weekend with somewhere between $500 to $2,000.
Nice.
just to supplement, and it worked for him. So I want to ask you about collaborations for a second here.
Yeah.
So the Four Kings. Okay. So we had here 2 weeks ago, actually 4 weeks ago, we were talking to Bill Welter.
Yeah, good dude.
Okay, yeah, good guy. Can you tell us a little bit about how this came about and how you guys decide what to contribute every year? And for everybody who doesn't know about this, this is a collaboration between Few, Corsair, Journeyman, and Mississippi River Distilling.
So how did it come about? Well, we're all friends, basically. And obviously we were talking about Delilah's earlier. And so it was the 4 of us, so me, Bill, Ryan from Mississippi River, and Andrew from Corsair.
Uh-huh.
And it was after Whiskey Fest, and we're drinking over at Delilah's with our friends Mr. Pontani from over at Finney's, as well as, of course, Mr. Miller.
Uh-huh.
And we're shooting shit. We all like each other. We're having a good time. We've been served some whiskey. No good story starts with having a salad. This starts with a lot of whiskey.
Oh, hold on a second. I need to remember that. No good story starts with having a salad. Everybody just repeat that to yourselves for a second, because that's a line we all need to remember. All right, back to you.
So we're all sitting around, kind of in that, the first floor, kind of back by the men's room, or
Mm-hmm.
actually by the women's room, I guess, kind of in that corner.
Mm-hmm. With the
Not
couches
all the way
back
up
there.
on the
The
stage,
couches.
but back over there.
Yeah.
So you were well served, um, having a good time. And one of us, I don't remember who it was. I think it might have been Ryan, but who doesn't matter. Said, "Oh, we should all put whiskey in for a project together." And we're all like, "Ah, yeah, that'd be fun. That'll never work. Wait, never work." And then Pontani steps up. He's like, "If you guys do that, I'll buy all of it."
Nice.
And we're like, "Oh, well, if there's no commercial risk,
Nice.
let's see how this can make it work."
So how do you decide what goes in every year?
Shooting shit.
Okay.
Basically, we end up having a phone call, and we all decide. We started off with doing bourbon because, for obvious reasons, bourbon's the number one category. Then the next year we did a rye because rye was something else. And then the third year we did malt whiskey. Obviously not single malt because it's four distilleries.
Right.
Fourth year, then we did a blended whiskey where we each put in a different kind of whiskey. Bourbon, rye, wheat, and malt. And so then that was 4 years, and then we're like, "Oh, what are we going to do?" And so we went back to bourbon, but to make sure that was something different, we did bourbon finished in a tequila cask.
Cool. Nice.
Then last year we did rye finished in a brandy barrel. And then what's out right now is a malt, again, not a single malt, but finished in a smoky Scotch cask. Ardbeg, if I'm not mistaken, but
nice.
That could also be Lagavulin.
Got it. Very nice.
Very
Very well. I've got to tell you, I've liked everyone that I've had. They're wonderful collaborations, and obviously each of the distilleries is great of what goes into it. It's just wonderful.
We all get together, not every year, but we try to get together. We all get together in the Clare where it gets bottled. We go out there. We spend the night in the hotel. We don't eat a lot of salads, but I'm notorious because I got stymied in trying to do certain activities that I probably should not have been trying to do.
Well, we're being recorded right now, so I just want to warn you before you go any further.
It seemed like a good idea, but the statute of limitations has not run. But then we all just, then everybody just busts each other's balls for years. Remember when you did that stupid shit? Like, yeah, I remember when I did that.
Well, Lou Bryson was our first interviewee 2 months ago, and he started telling us about some story when Pontani jumped over him stark naked at a pool one night.
There you go.
Oh my God, Eric, you're amazing. You are. Did you make that up just now, or did you find it somewhere?
Oh no, I just made it up.
You just made it up?
Yeah.
Oh my God, Paul, do you want to put few on that and just use it? I mean,
are we selling it for the group?
Oh my God, that's incredible. I don't even know what to do with this. This is a major distraction. Eric, put that to the side. We'll come back to that later. That was amazing. Okay. All right. So, yeah, it is. It's wonderful. So on that note, though, what I want to do is this. I have a whole bunch of other questions that I can ask you, but out of respect for everybody else in the group, what I want to do is open it up to questions from other people here. And if there aren't any other questions, then we'll go back to the questions that I have. Okay. But I like giving people an opportunity to ask you questions about, the process, what you're doing, what's coming up next. So Eric, if you can take over now for a little bit to moderate and see what other questions are coming. And if there are none, then I'll just come back to me.
Okay. Michael Bloom had one.
Sure. So Paul, great to have you tonight. I'm wondering, you don't malt your rye, right?
Correct.
But those who do, like Hletko that you mentioned earlier, sometimes label their bottles single malt, even though it's single malt rye. So I was wondering if you have any plans in the future for doing 100% malted rye single malt.
Yeah, we never say never, but we don't have any in barrel, and I don't see that happening anytime soon. Certainly never say never. I do like the flavors of malted rye. Obviously, it's a great whiskey. There's only so much you can do, and for the most part, we few try to avoid doing stuff other people do.
Right.
Or at least we want to bring our own. If we're gonna do something somebody else is doing, we want to bring our own twist to it somehow.
Yeah.
So doing 100% malted rye, I think we could probably make a really good one, or at least for the sake of discussion, give me credit to say we could make a really good one. But I don't know why I would. Other people do it, so.
So I'm asking the question in part because I'm wondering if the fact that you can say single malt and it's rye, not barley, is confusing something that is already confusing to people, which is the idea of an American single malt, which is not yet a TTB category, but is again something that you guys already do and do well. So as a follow-up, how do you see categories mattering to the world of craft whiskey? Is it really super confusing, or is it just a lot of room to play and be creative?
So I'm a founding member of the American Single Malt Whiskey Commission, whose goal and target is to solve that. We producers believe that it is unnecessarily confusing, in particular because U.S. rules are opposed to Scotch rules. And I think that's a real problem, that when someone purchases a bottle, they are entitled to get what they think they're getting. And so, for better or for worse, the whiskey consuming public has been trained that single malt means this, which is the Scotch definition. Now, I don't particularly like that definition because I think it's overly restrictive. So what we at the American Single Malt Commission tried to do was to find a standard of identity, is what the legal word is. What's the standard of identity that we can all agree on that protects the consumer interest in getting what they think they're getting, while also protecting our interest in not being hidebound to something that restricts creativity or something else. And so the number one example is malted rye versus malted barley. And we as an industry have petitioned the TTB and the federal government to pass a standard of identity that would not have that. It would be single malt means barley. Single rye malt means rye malt. TTB did not listen to us. TTB did not grant us that. And so there is, at least for the foreseeable future, going to continue to be this breakdown. We are continuing to work and trying to make it. But again, just as further background, in America, American single malt legally only has to be 51% malted barley, which is very different than being 100% malted barley, and leads to stuff like, we were talking about earlier, the American whiskey has a malt whiskey in there that I would not call malt whiskey because it's not 100%. Under U.S. law, it is. And that's actually one of the problems. That's one of the reasons why we ended up releasing it as in the American whiskey, is we didn't know what else to call it.
Right.
I'm not going to call it single malt because it's fucking not. But legally it is. So what do you do when your morals are, if a law won't let you do what you're saying is legal, change it. So we changed it up. Now it's not. It's not a single malt.
Right. And of course, you as an individual producer, you can always do things yourself in such a way that do not adhere to those standards, but adhere to your own standards. Okay. And
Sure.
The standards that you adhere to, as long as it's labeled properly, then it's fine. And if your standards are higher than what the TTB are, then so be it, right?
Sure. I mean, again, there's nothing should hamper the distiller or the artisan's creativity. The consumer should get what's on the bottle, though. So don't label it bourbon if it's not bourbon. Don't label it malt if it's not malt. Don't label it rye if it's not rye. Don't label it American rye whiskey from Vermont when it's from Canada.
Oh, we know what you're talking about there.
You know, that's wrong. Consumers should get what they think they're buying.
Well, even the whole thing with so many people, you know, the whole MGP thing, right? You know, remember when Templeton got in trouble, you know, a lot of people, when all of a sudden people found out that Templeton was being made at his big factory in Indiana, you know?
Again, people should get what they want. So if you're paying extra because it's a small batch handcrafted distillery, that is awesome. And thank you for that. But it's bullshit if you're paying more for something because you think it's small handcrafted and it comes out of one of the largest distilleries in the country. That's not fair.
Right.
You got ripped off. No, the whiskey inside is great. You know, obviously MGP makes great whiskey, and that is what's important. But don't lie about it.
Right. Yeah, I was actually at a good tasting back in the fall from it was Redemption. Okay, and the head distiller from Redemption, and from the very beginning he said, "Let's talk about where we're produced." And he didn't hide it. He went right to it. And he talked about it, and it was refreshing. You know, there was absolutely no deception whatsoever. He came right out with it, and he said why they do it, and how they work with him, and how they produce, and how they select the barrels. It was actually very nice. I liked it.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's a way long answer to Mike's question. Yeah. Probably way more than you wanted. You probably didn't realize you were stepping in a landmine.
Oh, asking a former attorney, whiskey producer, a question like that, I really appreciate your honest answer and getting into the geeky weeds. Enough of us on this call actually love that kind of answer to things, so it's exactly what I hope for. Thank you.
And you also stepped on it right now because there's some things going on behind the scenes that are infuriating me. So I've been on a fucking tear the last couple of days over this. So yeah, I got a little bit of an open wound, and you just rubbed some salt in it. So
sorry about that.
I'll pour yourself another drink while Eric looks for the next question. Eric, why don't you bring us on to the next question? Maybe some of them won't piss Paul off too much.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I think I saw.
Yeah, I got a couple questions. Paul, have you done any like single barrel or single cask releases in house, or are you and have you? I know that you've worked with Single Cask Nation, but have you worked with any other independent bottlers or any other collaborations like that?
We do single barrels routinely. Benny's carries them all the time. We do single barrels a lot. In Illinois, it is primarily Benny's that buys most of them. You'll find some other ones here and there, on premise here and there as well. So short answer on single barrels is yes. Long answer is they're bottled a little bit differently because we bottle them at 101 instead of 93, and so on. So yes, and then independent bottlers. Not really. We only really do independent bottlers if we're friends. I'm not real interested in working with most independent bottlers unless we're friends. So Single Cask Nation. We've worked with Boutique Whiskey Company in the UK. We've done Scotch Malt Whiskey Society. I'm actually B4 at Scotch Malt Whiskey Society is us, and RW1 is us. So we're the first rye whiskey the Scotch Malt Whiskey Society ever released.
That's very cool. Actually, you just brought another issue up: is how is the tariffs going into Europe affected you? I mean, I know it's hit a lot of smaller producers really hard.
You know, it's been certainly very challenging because it adds an awful lot to the price in conjunction with being very quickly after Brexit, which caused the devaluation of the pound, which hurt us. UK is our #1 export market. So when the pound got devalued, that killed us. And then tariffs aren't helping. The other problem we're having a lot with the tariffs is that we slash our price, which obviously hurts us. And then we see our partners over in Europe taking the tariff off on as well. So they're just taking the extra margin, which really sucks. So we charge less, and it still shows up on the shelf at crazy high prices.
Yeah, that's a shame. And how about the the pandemic right now, and your tours, and that part of your marketing and your business? I mean, how have you been handling that? What type of a change has that been for you, and where do you see it this ending here?
Where it ends up, I have no idea. But our tasting room has been closed now for, I don't know, 2 months, whatever it's been, March, whatever mid-March day it was. I don't remember.
Yeah, second half of March, like 23rd.
Second half of March, we closed down the tasting room. Remains closed, and realistically, it's probably closed forever.
Really?
I don't know that it's ever going to come back. We'll see.
Wow.
But our tasting room has never really been our focus. It's we sell our product all over the world, not in our tasting room. So we've never put much work or effort into it, and we got exposed. Once it got closed down, we'll see. We are surviving and at least relatively thriving.
Liquor sales are, in general, liquor sales are up because
under 25.
Yeah.
So my relevant market is down about 60%, and we're up, I think, 2 last measurement. So while everybody in my world is down 60, we're flat, which is, I'm going to take that as a major win.
That's huge.
I'd rather be flat than down 60.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Not to try to put mathematics into tonight's call or anything, but
well, we've been drinking, so I don't know how much math people want to do right now.
So that's all good. We're now back producing at our new normal level. We cut down our production a lot to try to conserve some cash. And pre-pandemic, we were already probably a little bit overproduced.
Yeah, interesting. So outside of Illinois, here in the United States, what are your major outlets? What states buy more of your stuff than others?
Here in the U.S., we're sold in 50 states, but our big states are Illinois, of course, New York, California, Florida's coming on real strong. Maryland has generally been pretty good. Massachusetts generally pretty good. In D.C., we've got some hot spots in. I think we're going to start going real good down in Atlanta and Georgia.
Got it. And in the normal environment, you'd be traveling a lot to those places, going to the bars, going to the liquor stores, doing tastings, and you just can't do that now, right?
Yeah, so I've now been home since early March. So that's now, we're coming up on 3 months at home.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's the longest I've been home in 10 years.
And you're still married.
By a long stretch. Yeah, well, she doesn't necessarily mind when I'm gone, shall we say.
Very good. Eric, what other questions do we have out there? Does anybody else raise their hand or put something on the chat? I thought Paul Barrett had a question. I thought that Paul posted something in the chat there. Paul, are you there?
Oh, he was just talking about math.
Very good. I am going to ask you one other question. So a lot of people on here are, I know from the synagogue world, okay? And they might not know, your family history, that, you got into this sort of as the legacy of your family, having had a brewery, from what I understand, in Czechoslovakia, and then family died in the Holocaust, right?
Yeah, so my grandfather's family owned a major brewery in what's now the Czech Republic. Especially all of us on the call, we all know goddamn well what happened in 1939 in Czechoslovakia. but they confiscated the brewery and murdered the entire family in the camps. And then after the war, my grandpa never got it back. And then when he died, it struck me that it was gone forever if I don't do something about it. And I don't want to raise a fist to the sky and scream, why me? I'd rather do something that's positive and creative and builds up. So I just had this inspiration. I've spent all my life. I try to be creative and try to make new stuff. I almost got a brew pub off the ground in the mid '90s, but I was too young and wasn't ready for it. But I love beverage alcohol. Again, no salads. But when he died, it kind of struck me that this is all now is something more than art. It was more than passion. It was more than business. It's blood.
Right.
And blood runs awfully thick. It's the only thing that really matters. So all of a sudden I had the motivation I needed to really commit and do something about it.
Were there any recipes or blends or anything like that, or methods that you took from the family, or that came through the generations here?
So I made one batch of whiskey from the family recipe. I'll never make it again. No, it's actually perfectly, it's actually really good whiskey. But no, I'll never make it again. I'll never sell a bottle. The only way to get a taste is for me to give you a bottle or to pour you a taste from my stash.
Got it. That's very
people
personal.
offer me thousands of dollars and no.
Yeah, it's just not for
some
sale.
things money can't buy, and family is kind of the very definition of stuff you can't buy. I guess that's not true. I donated one for a charity, which you could argue I sold. But
that's different. Charity's different.
Charity's different. I think that's different. I'm going to take. I think it's different. So I donated. If you remember back, was it 4 years ago that dipshit blew himself up at the concert in Manchester and took out all these little girls. I don't remember who the artist was, but my daughter was that age. I was a big fan of that artist, and my daughter would have been at that concert. And it's one of those ones, I think we've all been having these more than we probably should, but that one really hit me hard in my soul. And so I think it was a group, it was about the size of this group, but I think everybody was putting in 200 pounds, 300 pounds, 500 pounds, and a group of 10 people raised 5,000 quid for Manchester.
Nice. Nice.
So
that's wonderful. Good for you. That's a horrible reason to have to do something nice, but it's good that you did it. On that note, before I go,
Ariana Grande, yes, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, we are pretty much at the end here, though. Although there's a really good question that somebody posted here from Terry Dinterman. Terry's asking, any chance of collaborating with one of the Evanston breweries, Temperance, Sketchbook, etc.?
We collaborate with Sketchbook all the time. So actually, just yesterday we terrible accident. We spilled a whole bunch of whiskey that they made from their beer. Spilled it all over into bottles that we gave to them. But the short answer is yes, we do it. We give them barrels and lots of barrel-aged beers. As far as making whiskey from beer, we've done it. It doesn't taste good. Nobody wants it. So kind of circling back to the we don't care if anybody wants it. We look at how much fun it is.
Right.
If it's not
but you have to balance that, though. You have to balance it. I mean, you're still trying to make money. So
and if it's not good, I'm not going to look somebody in the eye and say, here, drink this, when it sucks. Make good beer, but and there are distillers that can do good with hops, distilled hops. I am not one of them.
Okay. Well, you know what you know.
Yeah. Everything I've tried distilling beer before, I'm not good at it.
Very good. Well, on that note, you've talked to us a lot about what you're good at, and it's funny that we're ending on the note where you say something that you're not good. Eric, if you can do me a favor and unmute everybody, and if everybody could just pour themselves a little bit more of whatever it is that they happen to be drinking now. And if everybody could say cheers and thank you to our guest, Paul Hletko.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
And
Cheers. Thank you.
let's all hope for being able to do something like this in person as very, very soon, because I'm really getting tired of this. I want to see people in person. I want to go to Delilah's. I want to go to Duke of Perth. I want to enjoy personal interaction. And Paul, thank you very much for your generosity and your time today. We appreciate it.
Be well.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Eric, thank you very much, as always.
My pleasure.
L'chaim, everybody.
Thanks, Gil.